The emergency council meeting was called at 0600 hours Galactic Standard Time, and let me tell you, nobody was happy about it. I sat in my designated pod, all 4 of my eye stalks drooping with exhaustion, watching as the other council members filed into the chamber. Commander Vrel looked like he hadn't slept in 3 rotations. Supervisor Chindar was stress molting all over her seat. Even the usually composed Director Hax was twitching her mandibles in what I recognized as barely suppressed panic. All right, Vrel began, his voice crackling through the translation matrix. I assume you all know why we are here. Oh, we knew. Everyone in the entire Andromeda sector knew. The incident at the Galactic Zoological Preservation Center had made headlines across 47 star systems in less than 12 hours. The human, Chindar hissed, her scales rippling with agitation. That god's-forsaken, absolutely ridiculous human. Let me back up for a second. 3 weeks ago, the Council had voted to allow Earth, that bizarre little blue marble in the unfashionable end of the galaxy, to send a representative to tour our facilities. The humans had recently been accepted into the galactic community, and we thought it would be good publicity. Show them our crown jewel, the most advanced conservation facility in known space, housing over 10,000 species from 600 planets. What could possibly go wrong, right? Wrong. So spectacularly, magnificently wrong, the human they sent was named Marcus Webb. He arrived on a Tuesday, which should have been our first warning. Nothing good ever happens on a Tuesday. He was average height for his species, had brown fur on his head, and wore this expression that I can only describe as dangerously friendly. Like a predator that had decided, just for today, to be adorable instead of terrifying. I was assigned as his guide, lucky me. Welcome to the GZPC, I had said, extending all 4 of my greeting tentacles. I am Visitor Coordinator Blim. We are honored to host our first human guest. Marcus shook one of my tentacles, which was weird but not unpleasant. His grip was warm. Disturbingly warm. Humans are apparently walking furnaces. Thanks, Blim. I've been looking forward to this for months. I run an animal shelter back on Earth, so this is like my dream job meeting my dream vacation. An animal shelter. He worked with creatures. Of course he did, the first hour was fine. Normal, even. We toured the crystalline habitats, the transparent enclosures where our aquatic species lived. Marcus made appropriate appreciative noises, asked intelligent questions about water composition and temperature regulation, and took approximately 3,000 pictures with his handheld device. The second hour was when things started getting weird. We were passing through the arboreal section, home to the Klexian tree dwellers, when one of them, a normally shy creature named Pip, suddenly launched itself at the barrier. Not in aggression. Oh no. It was making these high-pitched chirping sounds that our computers translated as friend. Friend. Pick up. Friend. Marcus stopped walking. He tilted his head, studying Pip with those forward-facing predator eyes that should have been terrifying, but somehow were not. Then he smiled, that smile. That was the beginning of the end. Hey there, buddy, Marcus said softly. Aren't you a pretty thing? Pip went absolutely insane with joy. Backflips. Somersaults. The works. Within 30 seconds, the other 5 Klexians in the habitat had joined in, all of them pressing against the barrier, all of them chirping friend. 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 I checked my datapad, confused. They have never done this before. Animals can tell when someone likes them, Marcus explained, still smiling at the increasingly acrobatic Klexians. I've just got one of those faces, I guess. One of those faces. Ha. If only it had been just his face. We moved on to the mammalian section, and this is where I should have called security. Should have ended the tour. Should have done literally anything other than continue. The Vorten pack hunters saw Marcus and immediately abandoned their meal to crowd against their enclosure. The Helix cubs started crying until he came over. The elderly Zorthan that had not moved from its sleeping platform in 6 months got up and waddled over to investigate. This is highly unusual, I muttered, making frantic notes on my datapad. They are probably just curious about the new smell, Marcus said. But he was walking closer to each habitat now, and I noticed he was doing this thing with his voice. Making it softer, higher pitched, turning each word into something gentle and ridiculous. Who's a good girl? Yes, you are. Look at those ears. What a magnificent creature you are, yes you are. The creatures loved it. They absolutely lost their minds over it. By the time we reached the reptilian sector, word had spread. I do not know how. Perhaps pheromones. Perhaps some kind of interspecies communication network we had not yet documented. Perhaps the universe itself was playing a cosmic joke. But every single animal in that section was already waiting at the front of their enclosure when we arrived. Blim, Marcus said slowly, looking at the dozens of creatures staring at him with what could only be described as desperate hope. Is this normal? No, I admitted. This is very much not normal. The Thraxian serpent, a creature so venomous it could kill a full-grown Vorthan with a single bite, was doing what I can only describe as a wiggle. A happy wiggle. Its massive head swayed back and forth, tracking Marcus's movement, and its forked tongue flicked out in rapid succession. Marcus approached the barrier carefully. Beautiful scales, he murmured. Look at that pattern. You're like a living work of art, aren't you? The Thraxian, a creature that had tried to bite every keeper who had ever fed it, pressed its snout against the barrier and closed its inner eyelids in what our behavioral database labeled as extreme contentment. I need to call someone, I said, my voice climbing several octaves higher than usual. Is something wrong? Marcus asked, finally tearing his attention away from the now purring serpent. Yes, purring. I did not know serpents could purr. The veterinary staff did not know serpents could purr. I am reasonably certain the serpent itself did not know it could purr until that moment. No, I lied. Just standard protocol. 4 unusual situations. What I actually did was send an emergency message to Director Hax. Come to Sector 7 immediately. Bring sedatives. Maybe an exorcist. I do not know anymore. Help. While I waited for backup, Marcus continued his tour, completely oblivious to the chaos he was creating. The small mammals were easy enough to understand. They liked everyone, generally speaking. But when the apex predators started acting like cubs, when the territorial species stopped posturing and started presenting their necks in submission, when the notably antisocial Kravix pair started synchronized dancing, something was deeply, fundamentally wrong with the natural order of the universe. Director Hax arrived 17 minutes later, out of breath and looking concerned. She took one look at the scene, specifically at the part where every visible animal was attempting to get Marcus's attention simultaneously, and her face went through several interesting color changes. What, she said slowly, is happening here? I think they like me, Marcus offered helpfully, liked him. That was the understatement of the millennium. These creatures did not like him. They loved him. They worshipped him. They had apparently decided, collectively and without consultation, that this human was their new favorite being in existence. This is impossible, Hax whispered, watching as a notoriously aggressive plexhound rolled onto its back, exposing its vulnerable belly, tail wagging hard enough to create a small windstorm. These are wild animals. Undomesticated. Many of them have never even seen a human before. I'm really good with animals. Marcus said, phrasing it as a question, as if he was not entirely sure himself. That was 4 hours into the visit. BYR6. We had a full crisis. BYR6. The situation had escalated from unusual to complete institutional breakdown, and let me be clear. I am not exaggerating even slightly. The animals were not just attracted to Marcus anymore. They were actively attempting escape. The Vorten pack hunters, who lived in a habitat specifically designed to contain creatures that could chew through reinforced titanium, were testing every single centimeter of their enclosure, looking for weaknesses. The aquatic species were beaching themselves against the transparent walls. The avian creatures were flying in synchronized patterns that our computer systems identified as either a mating display or a declaration of war, and honestly, both options were equally terrifying. This cannot continue, Director Hax announced, watching as a 3-ton Malgravian herbivore attempted to squeeze itself through a feeding slot that was maybe 15 centimeters wide. We need to end the tour immediately. But we have not finished the nocturnal section yet. I protested weakly. Hax turned to stare at me with all 6 of her eyes. Blim, if we take him into the nocturnal section, those creatures will probably break containment just to sniff his hair. We are ending this now. She was right, of course. She was absolutely, terrifyingly right. But here is the thing about situations that have already spiraled completely out of control. They do not suddenly improve just because you recognize the problem. Marcus, bless his oblivious human heart, seemed genuinely distressed by the decision. Are you sure? I mean, everyone seems so excited. Look at them. Excited. That was one word for it. Another word might be obsessed. Or unhinged. Or possibly planning a mass breakout to follow this man home. We are very sure, Hax said firmly. However, we would be honored if you would join us for a closing ceremony in the main amphitheater. A formal conclusion to your visit. This was a mistake. Our 5th or 6th major mistake of the day, but honestly, who was counting anymore? The amphitheater was an open-air space designed for educational presentations, with seating for about 500 visitors and excellent views of several habitats. What we had forgotten, in our sleep-deprived panic, was that the amphitheater had excellent views specifically, because many of the enclosures backed up directly to it. Marcus took his seat in the center of the front row. Hax began her prepared speech about cultural exchange and mutual understanding and the importance of conservation. It was a nice speech. Very diplomatic. Very professional. Nobody heard a single word of it because every animal within visual range of the amphitheater had suddenly materialized at their enclosure barriers, staring directly at Marcus, not just watching him. Staring. With intensity that made my skin plates itch. Is it just me, Marcus whispered loudly, or are they all looking at me? It is not just you, I whispered back, my voice tight with stress. That was when the howling started. The Centaurian wolves began it, their 6-part harmony echoing across the facility. Then the Krellin dogs joined in, their deeper voices adding a bass line. Within seconds, we had a full chorus. Dozens of species, many of whom should not have been physically capable of producing sounds in that frequency range, were calling out in unison. Our translation computers went haywire, spitting out nonsensical phrases like come back. Why leaving? Stay forever. Love you. Need you. Friend. 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 This is, Hax paused, searching for words. This is unprecedented. Marcus stood up slowly, looking genuinely upset now. They sound sad. Are they sad? Did I do something wrong? You existed in their presence, Supervisor Chindar said dryly, having arrived sometime during the howling. Her scales were flat against her body in what I recognized as deep frustration. Apparently that was sufficient to trigger some kind of mass psychological event. The howling got louder. More desperate. The Thraxian serpent had somehow managed to climb up the inside of its enclosure, and was pressed against the top barrier, tongue flicking so rapidly it was practically a blur. The Klexians were throwing themselves against their habitat walls in synchronized waves. Even the fish looked upset, which should not have been possible. Fish do not have the facial structure for looking upset, these fish managed anyway. I should go, Marcus said quietly. This is clearly stressing them out. Agreed, Hax said. Blim, please escort our guest to the shuttle platform using the interior corridors. Avoid all habitat viewing areas. Smart plan. Logical plan. Would have been a great plan if the animals had not already figured out what was happening. As we hurried through the corridors, I started noticing something deeply disturbing. The animals were tracking our movement. Creatures in habitats we passed would suddenly rush to the side closest to us, following along as we walked, their faces pressed against whatever barrier contained them. They were coordinating somehow, passing information about Marcus's location from enclosure to enclosure. This is really weird, right? Marcus asked, jogging slightly to keep up with my four-legged pace. I mean, I've worked with animals my whole life, but this is on another level. Your planet, I said between breaths. Earth? Did you do something to your animals? Genetic modification? Psychic enhancement? Ancient blood pacts with nature spirits? We just fed them and gave them belly rubs. Marcus offered. For like 30,000 years. 30,000 years. These humans had spent 30 millennia selectively breeding creatures to love them, and then they had the absolute audacity to act surprised when their presence made animals lose their collective minds. We were almost to the shuttle platform when the alarm started. Red lights flooded the corridors. An automated voice announced calmly, containment breach in Sector 4. All personnel evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. Hax's voice crackled through my communication implant. Blim, situation update. The Krellin dogs have broken through their barrier. They are currently heading toward your position. How did they break through? I demanded, pulling Marcus into a side corridor. That barrier was rated for 15 tons of impact force. They worked together, Hax said, and I could hear the disbelief in her voice. 12 of them hit the same point simultaneously. They calculated a weak spot. Blim, these are not tool-using animals. They should not be capable of coordinated engineering attacks. The sound of claws on metal echoed through the corridor behind us. Getting closer. Run, I told Marcus. Run right now. To his credit, the human did not ask questions. We sprinted toward the shuttle platform, my four legs pumping, his two legs somehow keeping pace. Behind us, the sound of pursuit grew louder. Not just the Krellins anymore. Other sounds. Lots of other sounds. Apparently the mass breakout had spread. We burst through the final doors onto the shuttle platform, just as the first Krellin rounded the corner behind us. It was a massive creature, easily 200 kilograms of muscle and fur and way too many teeth. It saw Marcus and its entire demeanor changed. The aggressive pursuit stance melted into something that looked disturbingly like joy. The dog skidded to a stop 5 meters away, sat down and tilted its head, then it wagged its tail. Oh no, Marcus breathed. Oh, he's a good boy, isn't he? Do not, I hissed urgently. Do not encourage it. But look at his face. Marcus protested. He's so happy. More creatures were arriving now. The Klexians came swinging through on the overhead pipes. The Plex hound squeezed through a ventilation duct. Something that looked vaguely reptilian, but moved like liquid shadow pulled out of a drainage grate. Within 60 seconds, we were surrounded by approximately 30 escaped animals, all of whom were staring at Marcus with expressions that ranged from hopeful to adoring to completely unhinged with affection. Shuttle departing in 30 seconds, the automated system announced helpfully. Please board immediately. Marcus looked at the animals, then at me, then back at the animals. I cannot just leave them like this. They are going to get hurt trying to follow me. They are contained animals. I shrieked, my voice hitting registers I did not know I possessed. They belong here. You belong on your shuttle going very far away from here. Security teams were arriving now, carrying tranquilizer equipment and stun nets. The animals noticed and immediately formed a protective circle around Marcus, facing outward, ready to defend him against their own keepers. Stand down, Marcus called out to the security teams. Then, incredibly, he knelt down and addressed the animals directly. Hey, guys. Listen. I know this is confusing, and I'm really sorry, but I have to go home now. You all have important jobs here. You're ambassadors for your species. You're helping people understand how amazing you are. I need you to stay here and keep doing that, okay? The animals stared at him. Marcus kept talking, his voice soft and ridiculously gentle. I will come back and visit if they let me. But right now, you need to be good and go back to your homes. Can you do that for me? Please? I do not know if they understood his words, or his tone, or some kind of pheromone signal humans apparently broadcast. But slowly, one by one, the animals backed away. The Krellin dog whined softly, but sat down. The Klexians chittered sadly, but retreated to the walls. Even the shadow reptile thing oozed reluctantly backward. Marcus boarded the shuttle. The doors closed. The engines fired up. Every single animal on that platform watched him leave, their faces pressed against the transparent sections, their various appendages waving goodbye. The shuttle launched, disappearing into the traffic lanes above the facility. For 10 seconds, there was absolute silence. Then, simultaneously, every animal in the entire facility began to howl. That was 3 weeks ago now. Sitting in this emergency council meeting, I listened as Director Hax delivered her final recommendation. Effective immediately, humans are banned from visiting the Galactic Zoological Preservation Center. They represent an unprecedented psychological contamination risk to our collection. Agreed, Supervisor Chindar said. The animals still have not recovered. Half of them refuse to eat unless we show them pictures of Marcus first. The Thraxian serpent has learned to operate the communication panel and keeps trying to send messages to Earth. The Klexians have formed a religion, I added miserably. They worship something they call the Great Warm One who gives good pets. We had to confiscate their shrine. Commander Vrel nodded slowly. Then it is settled. No humans. Ever. At least not until we figure out what exactly they did to earn the undying loyalty of every creature they encounter. The measure passed unanimously. Somewhere on Earth, Marcus probably has no idea he is now permanently banned from visiting alien zoos. He probably thinks it was a nice visit. A successful cultural exchange. He has no idea he accidentally triggered the first recorded case of mass interspecies depression spanning 600 worlds. Humans. Absolutely terrifying creatures. With their warm hands and soft voices, and that inexplicable ability to make literally anything love them, the galaxy was not ready. The galaxy would probably never be ready, and honestly, neither was I. Before the story continues, make sure you're subscribed, because humans don't quit, and neither do our stories. Subscribe now for more legendary sci-fi HFY content.